fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
The grand hall of the Elf King's court shimmered, a cage of opulence. Arches of polished obsidian etched with the histories of fallen dynasties, the Sunstone Kings, the Shadow Lords, the brief glittering reign of the Star Weavers soared towards a ceiling lost in shadow. I tilted my head back, trying to discern its height, but it was an impossible task. The stone felt ancient, imbued with the weight of centuries, of triumphs and betrayals. Ivy, a living emerald fire, twisted around the stone, its leaves cool and slick against my bare arm as I passed. It wasn't the gentle caress of a summer breeze, but a deliberate, almost possessive touch. I shivered, though not from cold. The scent of the ivy was sharp, earthy, a stark contrast to the suffocating sweetness that permeated the rest of the hall. Crystal chandeliers, fueled by captured starlight, a closely guarded secret of the elven mages, pulsed with a hypnotic rhythm, casting fractured light across the gilded walls. Each facet of the crystals seemed to hold a miniature galaxy, swirling with blues and violets, but the beauty felt hollow. Each reflection felt like a watchful eye, scrutinizing my every move, judging my worth. I smoothed the silk of my gown, a pale lavender that felt utterly inadequate in this display of wealth. It was a color chosen to signify humility, a message I hoped would be received by the king and his court. Air, thick with the cloying sweetness of moonblossoms, their fragrance engineered to induce a sense of placidity, did little to mask the underlying scent of steel and fear. It clung to the back of my throat, a metallic taste that made me want to cough. It wasn't the fear of physical harm, not precisely. It was the fear of exposure, of revealing the truth I carried within me, a truth that could shatter the fragile peace between our kingdoms. I swallowed, trying to dislodge the taste, and focused on my breathing. Slow, even breaths, a technique my mother had taught me to center myself in moments of overwhelming anxiety. I scanned the room, a sea of elegant elves, their faces masks of polite indifference. They moved with a grace that felt almost inhuman. Their eyes, long and slanted, followed my progress with a subtle curiosity. I was an outsider here, a representative of the human realm, and acutely aware of my difference. My skin was too warm, my movements too abrupt, my emotions too readily visible. I was a splash of color in a monochrome world. Then I found Khet. She stood apart from the throng, near a towering obsidian pillar carved with the image of a hunting goddess, a warrior amidst peacocks. Her leather armor, though finely crafted with silver filigree and intricate knotwork, felt rough and grounding against the shimmering silks and flowing robes surrounding her. It spoke of practicality, of strength, of a life lived on the edge of danger, a stark contrast to the delicate beauty of the elven court. I felt a tremor run through me, a familiar ache that blossomed whenever she was near. It wasn't a pleasant sensation, this longing. It was a dangerous current, threatening to pull me under. My gaze traced the line of her jaw, the subtle curve of her lips, the strength in her hands, resting loosely at her sides, but clearly capable of wielding a blade with deadly precision. The way her dark hair, braided with strands of silver, fell across her brow, partially obscuring her eyes. Those eyes, I'd only caught glimpses of their color, a deep, stormy gray, but they held a depth that captivated me. A dangerous pull, a longing that threatened to unravel my composure. I wanted to know the stories etched into the lines around her eyes, the battles she'd fought, the losses she'd endured. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the polite murmur of the court. It felt as though it would burst from my chest. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, the subtle quickening of my breath. I pressed a hand to my throat, trying to regain control. This was foolish, dangerous. I was here on a mission, a delicate negotiation that could determine the fate of our kingdoms. I couldn't afford to be distracted by her. I wanted to reach out, to touch her, to feel the warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips, to trace the lines of her armor with my own. But duty and a carefully constructed facade of regal composure held me back. I was Princess Lyra, the diplomat, the representative of the human realm, not a woman consumed by a forbidden desire. I reminded myself of the stakes, of the responsibility I carried. My people were counting on me. A flicker of movement caught her eye, and she turned, her gaze locking with mine. The world seemed to fall away, the noise of the court fading into a distant hum. It was as if a current had passed between us, a silent jolt of recognition. Her expression was unreadable, a carefully guarded mask, but I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, a spark of interest, amusement. It was impossible to tell. A spark ignited between us, a silent acknowledgement of the storm brewing on the horizon. A storm that threatened to consume us both. She didn't smile, didn't offer a greeting. She simply held my gaze, her eyes assessing, questioning. It felt like an eternity, though it could have only been a few seconds. Then slowly, deliberately, she inclined her head, a subtle gesture of acknowledgement. It was enough. It had to be. I returned the gesture, my heart still pounding, my breath still shallow. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that this was just the beginning. The carefully constructed walls around my heart were already beginning to crumble, and I had a feeling that Khet, the warrior amidst peacocks, was the one who would bring them crashing down.